Hi, I'm Pattu from freefincal. Today, let's talk about the real return from an SIP in the Nifty over the last 15 years. This is the same study that I published yesterday about 15-year SIPs for 148 equity mutual funds and so on. You must have seen the Nifty in that it had given about 9.9%. So that translates to about a 2% real return, as I'll explain in this post. But surprisingly, if you compare this with the real return for a Japanese equity investor, it's 50% less. And that's amusing, but it has to be seen in the right context. There's a lot of ifs and buts to it. So let's talk about that. So many of us tend to think that it's very, very easy for the Nifty to have outperformed the Nikkei, which is the flagship Japanese index, over the last 15 years. And many people said it would have outperformed by 15%, 10%, more than 5%, and so on. Actually, the outperformance is a sedate about 3%. If you actually look at returns, that is, you're looking at Nifty SIP returns in INR, compare it with Japanese Nikkei SIP in yen. You're not doing any currency conversion. That's not necessary, because we are looking at the real return for an Indian investor investing in Indian equities and a Japanese investor investing in Japanese equities. So we're going to look at the local inflation and the local equity returns. There's no need for the foreign exchange to come into play in this study. So there are a lot of factors here when we talk about inflation. We will come to that. So I had already talked about how the risk premium has gone down over the years. Risk premium essentially means that it's the extra return that you expect for taking risk. See, you could have got 8% return by in PPF by sleeping peacefully over the last 15 years. That's in hindsight, we know that was a guarantee. The 8% was a guarantee. But you choose to invest in Nifty. If you choose to do it, I'm not saying instead of PPF, but I'm just saying if you want to evaluate the Nifty, you say that the Nifty has considerably higher risk than the PPF. Therefore, as an investor, I expect reward for that considerable risk that I'm taking. That's called that expectation is called a risk premium. It is not a mathematically quantifiable number. It's only an expectation. And I argued last video that at least 2% is what you would expect from the Nifty to beat the, it should have bet the PPF by at least 2%, and that risk premium almost has been achieved, I would say. So the Nifty return is 9.84% over the last 15 years. And this is a risk premium of about 2%, like I just argued. It's neither terrible, not spectacular. It's just about okay. But 1% will go to tax, so you have to be careful with that. Now the Nikkei SIP would have given the bare returns in N would have given 6.04%, and that's not bad at all. We have to now find out the real return, and by factoring in inflation. What is real return? Real return simply means excess return above inflation if the real return is positive. And it tells you how much the purchasing power has been retained over the years, or how an investment has been able to handle inflation. If the real return is negative, that means the purchasing power has gone down over time. So in India, if you look at the consumer price index, which is published by the labor department, I think the Ministry of Labor, it's moved up from 66.04 in December 2005 to 180.44 in December 2019. That's a 14-year window, and in that window, that's a 7.44% annualized growth. That's a huge growth. The cost inflation index, which is released by the income tax department for calculating long-term capital gains after indexation, that has moved up from 117 in 2005-06, around middle of 2005-06, to 301 in the current financial year. That's a 6.5% annualized return. If you not annualized return, annualized growth. Sorry, keep saying that annualized growth. Now you stop and find out over these 15 years, from August 2005 to August 2020, how much has your essential expenses increased. You will know that it is more than, say, this 6.5% or so. It will definitely be more. See, I have talked about my own expenses in the past. Up to 2014 or so, I did the computation. After that, I kind of left it. That's about, I left it because I grew rich, so I left it. Uh, um, I didn't grow rich at 2014. I'm just saying I just left it because of the goal-based investing and so on. I kind of reoriented the way I think about budgeting, so I left it. But the point is that those numbers, my actual budget for a very frugal living without much of lifestyle change, during most of that period we did not have any smartphones. I had two feature phones. We had only cable, one AC, but that AC came only in the last 1 year, 1.5 years of that 15 year of that 2014. Around 2012 only we got an AC, just one AC in the room. I still don't sleep with an AC over my head. So there's not been much of lifestyle changes. I have a smartphone. I don't have but my primary phone is a feature phone. Smartphone I just use for freefincal tracking, freefincal's mobile presence and so on. Much of it, or audiobooks, whatever. But it was 8%. Not significant changes, but it was 8%. You must have seen an article by Kaustubh where he has been tracking expenses for 25 years, and he was kind enough to dig up his records, and he found that during this 15-year period, his inflation, including some lifestyle changes, was about 9%. Because it's not practical for us to say there won't be any lifestyle change over that 15-year period. There's always going to be some lifestyle change. So realistically, instead of that 6.5%, it's better to take 8% as Indian inflation. And if you take 8% compared to 9.94% from equity, I said 9.84, I think it's 9.94% Nifty SIP returns, the real return is about 2%. That is the way to calculate is 1 plus equity return divided by 1 plus inflation. That number minus 1 is the real return. It's about 1.8%, so it's about 2% roughly. Now, this is okay. This is not spectacular, but even though tax will remove 1% of the real return, it is still very good for a person who planned right, who invested the correct amount from day one. If they did not have enough money and wanted to compensate the lack of investing with returns, then they are in trouble. So that's the biggest problem. If you look at Japan, the situation is very, very different. The consumer price index moved from 97 in 2005 to 102 in 2020. That's an annualized inflation of 0.34%. Japan has been having problems trying to grow their economy based on demand consistently. They are fighting deflation. In Japan, I think the interest rates are negative. If you put money in the bank, you're actually going to lose money because the interest rate is negative. Because of the pandemic, they are worried that it will become even worse from now on. So a lot of problems are there, and Tokyo is one of the most expensive cities in the world. The third expensive cities in the world. The first is Hong Kong. The third is called Ashgabat. I never even heard of it until today. It's because of hyperinflation there. Another country with hyperinflation. Mumbai is the 67th most expensive city in the world. New Delhi is 101st. Chennai is 143rd. Bengaluru is 171. See, if somebody tells me that Bengaluru is less expensive than Chennai, there's something probably wrong with that study. I think Chennai is less expensive. I think so. I mean, I've been in Bengaluru for a long enough time. I've not stayed for extended period, but I've been there around to know that it's a little bit more expensive. I don't know what they're looking at. Calcutta 185th. So the problem is that they have had serious problems of poor economic growth, and that's why their stock market is struggling. But 6% from the Nikkei, over 15 years, is spectacular returns. Even if you take that 0.34% inflation, add some extra to for account for lifestyle changes and make it 2%. It will be a real return of 4%. That's twice as much as Nifty. But the problem is, because of the huge cost of living, they may not have enough money to actually put into equity. I have been watching this one YouTube channel I watch a lot. It's Paolo from Tokyo. I don't know how many of you have seen those videos. Paolo from Tokyo, he talks about lives in Japan. He talks about one day in the life of a software guy, one day in the life of a ramen chef, that kind of things. It's a very, very nice series. You can have a look at it. Check out his channel. There, if you look at it, the things that they buy on the street, that's extraordinarily expensive. Nothing is available for less than a few dollars. Here you can get very good stuff for $0.5, $0.3. So it's India is a I mean, the cost of living is extremely low, but the problem is, because the cost of living is extremely low, because the demand is increasing, the cost of living is increasing at a very rapid pace compared to Japan. So there are very different scenarios. The real returns also have to be taken into account. We have not taken tax into account for the real return here, so tax will take away at least 1% maybe, or 1.5% in the case of Japan. But they may not have enough money to actually have enjoyed that real return, because most of it is going to go in their lifestyle. I can't tell you which is better, which real return is better, because I'm not an expert and you have to do some kind of proper study to do all this. I don't have that kind of capacity, but I can tell you my opinion is that if an Indian has a consistent risk-taking ability, that means today they will say, oh, let me go and invest in gold because it's moving up. They saw it move up and then go. Then tomorrow they will say, oh, equity is moving up, let's go there. That kind of stupid things, if they don't do and have a proper risk-taking ability, they should probably end up richer after next 15 years than a corresponding person in Japan. This is my opinion. If there is one takeaway from this study, it is, please take risk when you are young. Otherwise, it will be a problem. Try to change your lifestyle by investing enough in equity. Yes, there are no returns from equity, but there are no guaranteed returns from equity. I should say no guaranteed returns from equity, but you have a chance, and if you manage risk properly, you can exploit the chance and change your lifestyle, change your social status or whatever. That's what I did. I changed my net worth, but not my lifestyle. That's the reason why I was able to hold on to that net worth. If you changing social status doesn't mean buying the latest car, this, that, getting more and more expensive, but adding more and more expenses will not change your net worth. So that's as long as you're careful and take care of those basics, I think an Indian has got a much better chance. If there is one thing I have learned from COVID, that there are many good things in India compared to what is going on around the world, and I would rather be an Indian equity investor than a Japanese equity investor for several reasons. So bye bye.